Harriet Tubman's life was a heroic journey. From her birth into slavery to her pivotal role as a conductor of the Underground Railroad and her fight for freedom, Tubman left a lasting legacy of courage, resilience, and selflessness. Born into slavery around 1822 in Dorchester County, Maryland, Harriet Tubman was originally named Araminta Ross. Her parents, Harriet Green and Ben Ross, were enslaved on separate plantations. From a young age, Tubman worked in harsh conditions, enduring backbreaking labor and physical abuse. These early experiences shaped her indomitable spirit. Tubman's family was constantly threatened with separation. Like many enslaved families, they lived in fear of being sold. Harriet witnessed the sale of 3 of her sisters, and this left a deep scar on her psyche. The bond she shared with her family became one of her strongest motivations to escape. At the age of 12, Harriet suffered a severe head injury when an overseer threw a 2-pound weight at another enslaved person, but it hit her instead. This injury caused lifelong health issues, including sudden blackouts, headaches, and vivid spiritual visions that influenced her decisions for the rest of her life. Following her injury, Harriet began having religious visions that she believed were messages from God. These visions became a source of strength for her. She often recounted that her faith in divine guidance kept her strong and determined to follow the path to freedom. In 1849, Harriet learned that she was going to be sold, which triggered her decision to escape. Despite the dangers, she made the bold decision to flee from Maryland to Philadelphia using the Underground Railroad. This journey would be the first of many in her fight for freedom. After her escape, Araminta Ross adopted her mother's name, Harriet, and took on the surname of her husband, John Tubman. This name change marked her new identity as a free woman and a symbol of resistance. After achieving her own freedom, Harriet returned to the South multiple times to guide others to freedom. She became a conductor on the Underground Railroad, a secret network of safe houses and routes for escaping slaves. Her courage earned her the nickname, Moses. Harriet's first mission was to guide her family to freedom. She made several daring trips to bring her siblings and elderly parents to safety, defying incredible odds. Her dedication to her family was the driving force behind her continued bravery. Tubman employed ingenious strategies to keep herself and those she guided safe. She would travel on Saturdays to delay news of escapes, use songs with coded messages, and always carried a gun for protection. Her ability to outsmart her enemies made her legendary. As Harriet's efforts to free slaves grew, Southern slaveholders placed a $40,000 bounty on her head. Despite the risk, she continued her dangerous missions, never losing a single passenger. She remained fearless in the face of death. Harriet worked closely with prominent abolitionists like Frederick Douglass and William Still. She helped to spread the anti-slavery message, using her experiences as a powerful testimony to the horrors of slavery and the need for freedom. Tubman's fight for freedom didn't end with the Civil War. She joined the Union Army, working as a nurse, a cook, and even a spy. Her intelligence work behind enemy lines helped gather crucial information for the Union forces. One of Tubman's most notable wartime achievements was leading a raid at Combahee Ferry in South Carolina in 1863. She helped liberate over 700 enslaved people in a daring river raid with the Union Army, becoming the first woman to lead an armed military operation in the U.S. After the Civil War ended, Harriet continued to fight for the rights of newly freed slaves. She settled in Auburn, New York, where she opened her home to those in need and became an advocate for formerly enslaved people, helping them transition to freedom. Despite her invaluable service, Harriet Tubman struggled for decades to receive a military pension for her work during the Civil War. Her efforts as a nurse, spy, and scout went largely unrecognized by the government, and she had to fight for financial support well into her later years. In addition to her work for African American rights, Tubman became an outspoken advocate for women's suffrage. She traveled across the country, attending rallies and speaking out for women's rights, making her a key figure in both the abolitionist and suffrage movements. Tubman's head injury from her youth continued to plague her, causing frequent headaches and seizures throughout her life. In her later years, she underwent brain surgery to relieve the pain, but refused anesthesia during the procedure, insisting her faith would protect her. Tubman's legacy continued to grow in her adopted hometown of Auburn, New York. She purchased land there and built her home, which also served as a safe haven for those in need. The Harriet Tubman Home for the Aged was established in her honor, where she spent her later years caring for others. After the death of her first husband, John Tubman, Harriet married Nelson Davis, a former enslaved man and Union veteran, in 1869. Their relationship brought Harriet some personal peace, and they remained married until Nelson's death in 1888. Harriet was a firm believer in education, understanding its importance for the future of African Americans. She helped fund schools and was a guiding presence for younger generations, advocating for education as the path to true freedom and equality. Harriet spent her final years at the Harriet Tubman Home for the Aged, where she lived until her death. Even in her old age, she continued to care for others, embodying the selflessness and compassion that defined her life. She remained an inspiration to all who knew her. Harriet Tubman passed away on March 10, 1913, in Auburn, New York. Her funeral was a grand ceremony that reflected the deep admiration for her life's work. Tubman's legacy lives on, and her grave is a site of pilgrimage for those who honor her tireless fight for freedom and justice. Harriet Tubman has been posthumously honored in numerous ways, from schools and statues to becoming a face on the $20 bill. Her story continues to inspire movements for justice and equality, making her an enduring symbol of hope and resilience. Tubman's story has been immortalized in books, films, and music. From children's books to the recent film Harriet, 2019, her legacy continues to captivate generations. Her journey has been an important part of African American and global history. Harriet Tubman's life is a testament to the power of courage, resilience, and the unrelenting fight for justice. Her work as a conductor on the Underground Railroad, a soldier in the Civil War, and an advocate for equality continues to inspire those fighting for freedom today. Harriet Tubman didn't just live in history, she made history. Harriet Tubman's story is vast, inspiring, and multifaceted. Each part of her journey reveals her unwavering spirit and contribution to history. If you like this video, we have more such videos coming your way. Please subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out. I will see you in the next video.